Image is a podcast of Redemption Church located in Huntington, West Virginia for the purpose of equipping believers to fully engage culture in a theologically faithful way.
We are we are hoping once again, Ryan. How many times have we done this? We are hoping to be more consistent in our content production.
Well, you've taken the first correct step.
Correct.
In replacing me.
Mm-hmm. And this will be a return to form of a consistent, regular. I'll just say it, at least monthly. We'll get into why it might be more monthly or not, but possible here in a minute. But at least monthly. But so here's the flow of, or the business goal of our podcast: to honor Ryan Smith for his service, his hard work, his energy, his joy, his friendship to me. Not just in this setting, but you're my friend other times too, Ryan.
Thanks.
But friendship to me in this project, and unfortunately, by just deep misinterpretation of the will of God, has taken another job. But you can tell where you're going, and then we'll maybe honor you some more.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. That was.
You're now a guest.
Yeah.
Brandon, cut him off at any point. You're now in charge.
That's sort of your main. You're going to learn this along the way, but your main thing is actually just cutting people off. That's pretty much all I did.
Cutting me off.
Yeah, wrap it up. So we're moving to Chattanooga, and we're kind of excited about it.
Sure.
We're sad to be leaving. We love this church. We love our friends here. We love our small group. We love our neighbors and our house and all those things we aren't bringing with us. But we are excited, and it's a little closer to home for me. So,
tell them a little bit about
is it Atlanta?
Your job. I don't know
It's
that
2 hours
everybody
from
knows.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
and it's closer to Grace's home as well in Orlando, but not close. Just technically closer. So we ticked that box. But we're moving after the new year. We've just accepted an offer on our house a few days ago, and
how much? You don't have to say that.
Over $500. What? It was over $500.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
500. I can't believe it. $500.
I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but we could buy one dirt bike at least with the money we made from selling our house. Any dirt bike at all, we could buy.
So what do you do for a living? Why are you moving to Chattanooga?
Well, if you've listened to this podcast, you know.
Have you told that story before?
Yeah, you know that I do air traffic control.
Wasn't paying attention.
I am actually moving off the floor, though. I'll be a supervisor, so it's a management role.
Okay.
And,
honestly, we've been so inconsistent with the podcast. I'm assuming that all the listeners are new at this point. So
when you were talking about this funny thing that we do where we pretend like we're going to be consistent every season we start a new.
It's a new day.
But I was sitting there thinking to myself, how many years have we been doing the podcast?
I don't know.
And how many years have I been trying to get off of it?
Oh no, you love it.
It's
I think
fun
the
to
answer
do.
is 4 and 3, probably.
Because Paul actually approached me about doing it, and he said,
Paul
I want you to do it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, you should do it. And then Josh bullied me, and so I did it.
Hey, you were my pick.
Yeah, well, I had fun doing
Paul. I might have dispatched Paul to recruit you because you would have said no to me.
Yeah.
But I, from the beginning, said Ryan will be perfect at this.
Well, we did it.
And then I was wrong, and then I said, now Brandon will be perfect.
No, I think you guys did a good job. Even I recently went back and listened to a bunch of them just to kind of get refreshed. And there was even an episode where both of you were talking about, this was actually, I think, maybe one of the first ones that Cade was on. You're like, man, we had a whole bunch of ones that were really bad. Let's get someone on here, revive it. And then I listened to the ones that came before that. It's these are pretty good. Because, the hospitality one was before then. That was good. I felt convicted. I was like, man, I'm bad at greeting people. I'm at least on time, though.
Well, we've learned to undersell and overperform.
Yeah. Well, in every podcast is dragging Josh kicking and streaming along to do the podcast. And then immediately after, he says, that's no good. Let's not do the podcast anymore.
Well, I'm ready now. I've got ideas like you've never heard. Okay, so moving to Chattanooga in the hopes that you will be closer to Georgia and Florida, which is where your family and Grace, your wife's family is.
So
Our
plan right now is to spend a few years in Chattanooga and then move further south to Atlanta or Orlando. And this is like a career progression to be able to do that. Now, it's funny we say a few years because we were supposed to be in Huntington for 2 years, maybe 3. April will have been 8 years.
When did you get here? 8 years. Okay, so that's why.
April of 2015.
So we had the 5:30 service, which was basically an identical service, just at a different time on Sunday nights at the time. And you rolled in perfectly because you were working day shifts. You weren't able to go to church anywhere on Sunday mornings.
In fact, it's the main reason we go to Redemption is because
it was the only game in town.
I worked Sunday morning, and nowhere else around here even offered like a midweek service. And I don't think it was very long lived, that Sunday night service, even
about
here.
A year.
And it
then
just
we
so
moved
happened
to 9 and 11 instead of 9.
I certified within that first year and got my new days off, which allowed me to come on Sunday, and so I wouldn't have gone Sunday night anyway. So you guys did it just for me.
The Lord did it.
Providence of God.
I think you're the only person we reached through that service. No, but serious. I've absolutely loved you. We're gonna miss you to death. Will give us plenty of reasons to stop off on the way to down south. I don't know that anybody ever goes to Chattanooga, but we'll probably pass it.
Well,
I used to go to Chattanooga all the time.
Yeah.
Chattanooga Lookouts, the minor league team there.
Yep, that's a AA affiliate of the
third largest city,
Reds.
I think, behind Nashville and Knoxville, maybe.
It's the fastest growing city in Tennessee.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I know this because I'm trying to buy a house there right now.
And you guys probably don't know this, but one of the biggest head races, which is a thing in rowing, is in Chattanooga. It's called the Head of the Hooch. It has like 20,000 people that show up.
Is a
Head of
church
the Hooch.
podcast.
Why is it called Chattanooga?
Chattahoochee?
That they call it that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's the river there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Way down yonder in the Chattahoochee.
it's a tourist spot. You've got Lookout Mountain, Rock City. There's an aquarium there. You know, it's a whole thing. So
Well, we'll send you off. We're recording this in what is today, December 7th.
yeah,
And so we'll likely get the opportunity to, on a Sunday morning, pray over you guys and let everybody hug and kiss you and
yeah.
send
Don't
you
kiss
off
us too
that
much.
way.
Our kid had RSV, so we don't want the kisses.
A question
No, go
for
ahead.
both of you, actually.
sure.
Okay, so this is both of you would qualify to answer this question, right? So you're originally not from here.
Correct.
You're also originally not from here. You ended up staying much longer than you anticipated.
Yes.
And that sounds the same for you. Okay.
No, I intended to stay.
Okay, so my question, I guess, would be why? Like, what is it about Huntington and I guess our church as well factors
That's
into
great.
that?
Great.
Like, what
That's
is
why-
it about
that's why
this
he's here.
area?
Yeah, well,
and what is it about this church that sucks people in and they don't want to leave?
Well, this is sort of going to ruin your
Let's
whole
now
thing.
talk about why we're great. Honor us.
This is going to sort of ruin your question a little bit because I did have in paperwork for Orlando basically the entire time I was here.
Sure.
It's just a really sought after facility, so I never got it.
It was his incompetence as his job. That's the answer.
Well, it's it's mostly my incompetence at my job, but it's really hard to get Orlando. So we've just we decided we weren't going to move, which we're now doing. But we decided early on we weren't going to move a halfway move, like we're going to move and then be done. Whereas other people in my facility were willing to say, we'll go somewhere we don't want to be and spend a few years to go, sort of stair step like that. And we
so
didn't want to do that.
But you're basically doing that. now.
Kind of, yeah. Well, so when we found out we were having another baby and our oldest is 3, we were like, okay, the longer we're here, the harder it is to move him. So we either need to decide to stay and just Huntington is home from now on, or we need to move. And so just Grace is from a huge family. None of them are here. None of my family's here. So we wanted to be able to, raise our kids close to family. And
we would have done that.
So we basically just decided, well, we need to do it kind of now or never. And so here we are.
But that's a good thing too. Honor the not obviously us personally, but the church. You love our
I love
church.
this church so much.
So
this
the
is,
folks who are hearing, affirm them, encourage them. That kind of.
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite church that we go to right now.
Good.
And it's in the top 10 of churches.
This is your
I've
favorite
ever
church
gone to.
online now.
Top 10.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
in the top 10 of
an honor.
I won't say which number. It might be number 1.
It's his top 10 what church he goes to?
It's in my
Sorry, I
top
was talking
10
to
of
everyone.
churches I've ever been to. So no, we love this church a whole lot, and it will be hard to. I don't think we'll find this church. I don't think we'll find anything like this, because it's rare. It really is, and so I think we will have the hardest time replacing our friends here and our church family here. That will be our toughest.
Yeah, you've made good connections and good friends, and you've intentionally sought that. I mean, that was a value of yours. To really seek to connect and in West Virginia, I hear it can be hard to do that. You know, we're clannish, we're friendly, we're nice, we're hospitable, but we assume everybody else has got family, and so holidays and stuff.
It's funny you say that. That's our exact experience. Everyone was super friendly to us. Like when we first moved here, it was really a lot of culture shock. You know, I'm from Atlanta, Grace is from Orlando, so we moved here, and everyone was very friendly. I'm from the South. Florida isn't really the South, but it kind of is. And so like is that familiar, like friendly, and even welcoming seeming. But I do think that there's like that assumption.
Sort of out here on
Well, I think
arm's length
it's so
sometimes.
like holidays and stuff like that. Nobody invites you to stuff. They assume you've got your.
You're going to your mama's.
Yeah, you're going your meemaws and pawpaws.
Right.
And we don't have that here. So it took a little. I think maybe being forward with people.
Yeah.
To like let them know we aren't doing anything for the holidays,
Right.
and then people are like super welcoming. So
come
maybe
on
that's
over.
a little tip for our church body
That's
here.
helpful.
Yeah.
You know, which is very different from Orlando. Everyone we knew in Orlando was a transplant. Grace was like one of the few people that's from Orlando, and Atlanta's like that too. So you get a lot of people that move into those cities. So you just assume that nobody has family in town, and nobody has something to do for 4th of July or Christmas or whatever. That's not really the case here.
So I will say, if you guys want more of that conversation, there's a whole episode where they talk about it in the hospitality episode.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
We're recycling.
Perfect. We've had this exact same conversation.
No, but
Really,
but that conversation was a full 35 minutes.
So this next year, we will have a episode every month. That would be about the same thing.
It'd just be the same topics rehashed.
it will definitely not be the
I
same
thought
thing.
Ryan left.
But the
Definitely.
quality
We'll just say,
will be better.
welcome back to the
because I won't
podcast
be-
in March. This is Ryan. He'll still be here. All right, so now let's switch to the new host, Brandon. A couple of things. Let's learn who you are, that kind of thing, and then
For those of you that haven't listened to the past episode where he was on here.
Yeah, we'll
Well,
insert that now.
well,
But did we get into any of your deep background much?
Like your bio.
Nah,
You were on
because
the-
I showed up to that episode because I was a black guy.
The episode. So
Well, Josh and Paul were a little embarrassed because like I brought 2 black guys with me, and then they were like, "Oh, we have a black guy that goes to this church.
I have a black son.
Does anybody know his
Yeah.
name?" And then they invited him.
So look at
Yeah.
us.
yeah.
Well,
Who
I'll
thought
say,
it?
I'll say,
Not me.
as a black person in Huntington, it is hard to make black friends.
Well,
I mean, now that I've
we
been
can't
here
really
longer,
speak to that.
it's like it's
It's
easier
hard
and
to make
easier.
black friends.
Well, it's more
Are you
just
trying to say black people aren't friendly?
no. I'm just saying like so like for me like I spent
You're on
all
video.
of my time like basically at work and then with my kids, and so like honestly. Like all of my friends are from church, and it took me a while to just get into the circles where it was like, oh, I'm interacting with black people. Hey, and I'm just like, as he said, you got to be forward. It's like, let's get to know each other, share our common black experiences and whatnot.
That was a great episode, and you
Yeah.
were good on it. And that factored in. There were other things, but I remember even coming out of that saying we ought to have Brandon on
Yeah.
the podcast more often. And so then knowing that Ryan was off ramping and thinking what we were going to do with all that, and we'll get to some of our conversations of how Brandon and I thought this would be a good next step. But
When you were asking me you were describing me and my role in this podcast 10 minutes ago, I thought, well, I would describe myself as the Redemption Church podcast color commentator, but
yeah,
that role has now been filled.
you're the guy. You're the guy. So who are you? Where'd you come from? What's
Yeah.
your background? Why are you great?
Great.
Who are you
Alan.
married to?
Yeah.
How many kids you have? That
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Okay, well, I'll start by answering the question that Kate also asked. Like, I'm a transplant. I'm not from Huntington. So I'm originally from Farmtown, Ohio. And I'll just skip to, like, straight from, like, why
Where's Farmtown?
Huntington?
That's near.
Well, there is a Farmtown, Ohio. I'm from, like, Clayton,
Aren't they all
Ohio.
farm towns in Ohio?
Yeah, there's like a place called Farmtown.
All right.
Like, it's
Really original name they
yes,
came up with.
lots of farms. But yeah, so I moved here almost 6 years ago from Los Angeles, California. We were there for 5 years, and we came here. And to kind of answer your question, like, why do people stay? Why do people like it? So anyone that's lived in Los Angeles knows a lot of people aren't friendly. And one of the things that struck me, like, when I came here, Pokemon Go was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I came here for my interview at Marshall University. I was playing Pokemon Go starting at, what's now, a DoubleTree. It was like a Holiday Inn back in the day. I was at the Holiday Inn playing Pokemon Go, ended up at Ritter Park. And on the way, I literally met, 10 friends. They were like, hey, man, you like doing this? Like, if you come back, give us a call. And, they were, legit for real.
So did you you played Pokemon Go from 4th Avenue
Yeah.
all the way to Ritter Park?
Yeah.
You just walking and capturing stuff
Yeah.
as you go.
Yeah, that's because,
hilarious.
you can see the map. And then,
Let's make that a podcast.
yeah,
Can we recreate that? We need to talk to
let's-
Brian
let's-
and whoever. If there's a possible
Yeah.
way for us to, in a future episode, walk.
Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down there, Brian. Is that all right? He's got a thumbs up.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Let's expose how nerdy Brandon is, which is fine. I mean,
I was just about to say, I'm really glad that you thought my direct replacement should be the biggest nerd.
Yes.
Oh, it gets worse.
Right. I mean, it's worked so far.
It'll get worse.
We should
Just- you
replace
just
it with
wait.
a nerd.
Yeah.
And for all of those listeners around the world and the country, how far is 4th Avenue from Ritter Park? I mean, that's the reason that's interesting. That's what, a mile and a half?
1.8 miles. I know that because
1.8 miles,
Well, that's
yeah.
because I used to
Anyway, nerd.
run from
He's a
my
runner.
office
Yeah.
to Ritter Park.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So keep going.
So the other thing, here for my first day of my interview, go out to a restaurant with the faculty for the School of Medicine, and one of the things that struck me. So you mentioned or you asked who am I married to? I'm married to Laura Henderson. She's a 10. I'm probably biased because I'm married to her, but she's also white. I'm black. And the thing that was really cool for me, Huntington has a lot of mixed couples. It's way more than all the other places I've lived.
Okay.
In
More
just-
than LA.
More than LA. That's
More
what I
than
said.
LA.
You think
Yeah.
there are more?
Yeah.
And not per
Yeah.
capita.
Per capita. I was
No,
thinking
not per capita.
Yeah.
You think there are more?
Well, not more, sure, number.
And you're a doctor.
Yeah, but I will say,
There's
okay,
1.8
So
couples.
here's the crazy thing about Los Angeles. There's a lot of diversity, but everybody's segregated. It's basically the black people stay in the black people zones, the Asian people stay in the Asian people zones, and it's not just Asian. So it's if you're Chinese Cambodian, you're in Gardena. If you are Korean, you're in Arcadia. If you're Chinese, you're in Temple City. If you're, if you're Japanese, you're basically.
But it's more integrated here.
Yeah, well, I mean, because everybody's just kind of thrown together here. I mean, Huntington, I think, diversity-wise, I think is pretty good. I see lots of different people, but that could be because I spend all my time at the university. There's
Yeah.
people listening.
No, that's
I'm
definitely
a professor
why.
in the med school.
Because
so.
the demographics say otherwise. It's less than
Well,
3%
but-
of people that aren't
Yeah.
white.
Well, I also
Because
live in
I have
Atlanta.
I have
Yeah.
kind of a biased
So-
view too, because
Yeah.
I'm at Huntington High, which is the most diverse school in the whole state,
Yeah.
probably. So
Okay. So
He's
you're
bad
wrong.
at math.
You're
He's bad
wrong.
at math.
No. He agreed.
Yeah.
He agreed.
Well,
you're wrong.
But
Well,
Are you
I mean,
agreed?
but also here's
I'm
my
going to agree with them. So it's 3-1.
Well,
so-
since
so-
it's-
why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
go to Chattanooga,
There's a
where
sense.
they're all white,
Yeah.
and the black people and the white people
Yeah.
stay separate.
Yeah. Well, here's my hypothesis on why there's so many mixed couples. So basically, okay, West Virginia is very white. You want a good football
So
team.
which is
you want
it?
a good
Is it
basketball team.
diverse or is it mostly white?
So okay, we're talking about statewide, not diverse. Huntington, diverse. You leave
That's probably
you
true.
leave the
That's probably
20-mile bubble of Huntington, it changes drastically.
Yes.
So
It's white.
speaking as somebody who's from originally one of those non-diverse areas,
Yeah.
Lincoln
the only black person we had in the school was an exchange student, and that was it. So
Yeah.
it is.
So my hypothesis is they recruit a lot of black athletes for the football team, the basketball team. they come to like, these people are nice. It's like I should stay here. And then they just happen to end up with, a white spouse. And one of the reasons
There
why
are more
I know
white
this,
girls.
well, I haven't done stats on this, but the reason why, one of the reasons why I think this, so like the daycare my kids go to has a lot of mixed kids. And I've talked to I talked to the dads, what's your story? I played basketball here and then I met my wife. What's your story? I played football here and then I met my wife. So I mean, like in science, like it's based upon like.
Well, we'll make an episode about this one day.
All tribes, all nations. That's the name of the
great
podcast.
way to
But
move
let's
on
keep
to
going.
that.
So
Yes.
We'll make a
your
podcast about
biography.
this later.
Okay, yeah. So I'm from Ohio. I went to Ohio State. I am not an Ohio State fan, and
Okay.
just to put it on record, I think Ohio State football fans, they're a little nuts. They may be kind of cultish.
Good.
And,
Alienate the listenership. Good.
well, I know that our church has.
I want to go on
Ohio
record and
State
say that I
fans.
agree with him, though.
I'm just.
I'm from Georgia, so
Yeah.
you know how I feel about it.
This is coming from a person that has been freed from the bondage of Ohio State, the
cult of Ohio
idol,
State.
idol
The fact that you don't
worship.
call it the Ohio State, that's
Yeah.
how I know that
Yeah,
you're not a
and
fan.
given
You
that
just
I
say
have-
What was your
Ohio State.
degree in?
So my bachelor's degree is in chemistry, and my PhD is in neuropharmacology. So
Okay.
I have 2 degrees from Ohio State. I still support them. I think they're a great institution, but they're just nuts about their sports. So,
Well, that funds
yeah.
the neuroscience department. What? So after that, what happened?
Okay, so graduated. So my wife and I,
You met at Ohio State.
yep. So I stayed for a girl that was not my wife, and then I met my wife. We met at a church called, so it's Vineyard Columbus, a Vineyard's national/international church. We met there. We got together because we were kind of in leadership in different roles. So she was in a women's group and was leading a women's group. I was in a co-ed group, and like the leader that kind of helped train me was engaged to her leader. And so basically when they got married and we started taking over the groups, we just started hanging out, and it was just one of those things like, this girl's cute and smart and she loves Jesus. And then I was hooked.
So you were a Christian then before that.
Yep.
So how did you come to Christ?
So I would say, it was one of those things that was a slow march. So I was raised in a Christian home, but it wasn't like, so my mom was I would say the good Christian. She went to church, like she believed, she read the Bible, not just read the Bible, but read the Bible to understand it, apply it to her life. Whereas like the rest of like my dad, my brother and I, we were just kind of like,
One for the ride.
yeah.
Maybe culturally Christian, but not
Yeah,
practicing.
So my dad was the kind of person at that time, he's like, I read the Bible enough, I'm good, and didn't really see the need. But then when she passed away, like he had, like, obviously he changed, like that type of experience just like made him reassess everything. So my mom passed away when I was in 3rd grade. He became a single dad, and that type of struggle just like changed his whole mindset. So he became, I would say, a real Christian then. He like devoted himself to Christ. And then because of that, we were influenced. So like we were going to church. He was like always reading his Bible. He had his like 6 versions of the King James Bible all over the house, or wherever he was, he can grab one. It's like, all right, let's break open the King James. And that was the only Bible I knew existed. When I got to college, I figured out there's other versions, and it was weird.
Was it like
So-
the big coffee table, like 5-footer?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's one of those things where like it's so big you can use it as a projectile weapon if you wanted to. So it was one of those things. So like my brother and I, we had different opinions. My brother was never really kind of like into Christianity, and so like we would go to church, he would kind of goof off, and like, but I started paying attention because I saw like my dad was a good guy, but he became a better person. Like the more he kind of like studied the Bible, the more he got like, I would say he became very wise and sage-like, and I was like, this is valuable. So that's when I got interested. But we kind of grew up in a church full of old people.
And this is how old were you when you trusted Christ? When I say
Okay.
trusted Christ, don't assume
Yeah.
like you put your faith in
Yeah.
Jesus' life, death,
Whatever
and
that
resurrection.
means. You prayed a
Yeah.
prayer or
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Well,
Are you Christian, Brandon?
I'm Christian.
Okay.
I believe in Jesus.
I'm teasing. So you were like 5th, 6th grade, maybe when you were, or did you do
Nah,
that
I
as a
would say-
little child?
I would say
if your
middle
mother was
school.
still living.
It was
Okay.
middle school because one of the good things, our church only baptized people that they thought like were serious.
Sure.
And so basically it was around middle school, but it was still like that. Then I would say like I wasn't even considered a Christian because one of the things that I think is critical is community. Like basically you can't just do it by yourself because you're going to have a flawed perception of understanding the Bible and of Jesus. So I wouldn't say I was like really saved until college. So basically around the time I met Laura, well, not really, because like she would say like she didn't know me then. It was this weird. So that's another story. But anyways, I would say like I got through college. One of my friends on the rowing team, because I was on the rowing team at Ohio State. So my junior year, one of my friends on the rowing team took me to his church, and I would say for about 2 years I was kind of just like very like not growing at all. But then like when I got to graduate school and I had more time, I spent more time at the church. Got involved with a small group. I'd say that's when I became a real follower of Jesus.
Okay.
So that
All
was
right.
like
Great.
22, 23.
Okay, so now we're back to college.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happened after you started the groups with Laura?
Yep. So really like one of like, so this is like kind of a theme you guys have talked about in the podcast. Like, you know, how do you like grow authentic relationships is usually like through group activity. So I started leading a small group. I also started volunteering in the church band. And through that, like, you know, when you're spending, like, we had an apartment right across the parking lot from the church. And so we kind of, like, were at the church a lot. We had a lot of really good growth at that time because we were always, like, with people kind of talking about, like, you know, Christian concepts and, like, learning, like, thinking about, like, not just the Bible per se, but how we apply it, how do we serve the community. So that was a really good time, which I think was a good foundation for when I graduated. We stayed a bit, waited for Laura to graduate from nursing school, and then we moved to California. And it was good we had that foundation because all the stories they say about California being crazy, a lot of things drawing you off in the wrong directions, it's totally true. So we needed that foundation because, like one of the things, like, we kind of, like, that everybody gets caught up in is, like, it's so expensive to live there. You get so focused on money, and you make bad decisions. Like, so Laura took this job. So we lived in a place called Arcadia. She got a job in West LA at Cedars-Sinai Hospital as a hospice nurse. It's LA from the map is like maybe like a straight line, like 20 miles, but it was a 2-hour commute each way. So it's one of those things, like, the money was like, it's the most money she has ever made in her life, and it made it easier for us to live there. But basically, it's like, for 2 years, I never saw her because she worked 6 days a week.
And that's why you went those for that job.
Well, so we went there for my job. I got a dream job.
Okay.
Working at the California Institute of Technology. So if you don't know what that is, watch The Big Bang Theory.
Caltech.
Yeah, Caltech. That's where Sheldon is and Leonard and all those people. And the people at Caltech are really like that. So
It's a prestigious place.
it is. It's,
Man, this is getting nerdier and nerdier.
well, I'm a nerdy guy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like, I line up interviews at like basically prestigious institutions. I hate every one of these places, and because, like, especially my first one I went to, like, all the faculty are just like not happy because, like, there's the way that you get paid for academic science, it differs. And so there's this thing called hard soft salary. So I can't name any names because I'm contractually obligated not to talk about, like, certain institutions. But I went to this one institution where basically they pay you 100% soft salary. So what that means is, say you get like $120,000 salary, they pay you zero. What happens is you have to get a grant, and then you pay yourself from the grant. And if you don't get a grant, you don't get paid. So it's like a super stressful environment.
So they give you a platform from which to write a grant
Yeah.
in which you may get paid.
Yeah, because you're like, hey, we're so-and-so. You're going to get funding, and that's how you're going to get paid. And if you don't get funding, you know, you'll just not get tenure. You'll have to leave, and we'll just get someone else. And that's like the whole mentality.
Sounds
So-
like a good gig.
Yeah.
But good
Yeah.
news, and maybe, you know,
Mhm.
you want to talk about it, but maybe not, probably not. But you're apparently, like, unbelievable at grant writing, so it's not a problem.
Well, I'm not.
You
I'm-
got, like,
well,
this top tier score that, like, nobody ever gets as far as a
Well-
couple years ago.
Well, I
He's
would
by
say
far the most impressive person on the stage.
He
right now.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not even close.
not really. Not really.
and humble.
Yes.
Is
Well,
it over 100?
humble.
I don't know what the score rating system
Oh,
is. Is it
well,
over
well
100?
just to let you know, I know lots of
Hi.
people that get scores
it's-
better than me.
Well,
So, but so I come here though,
So you choose here.
Well, because there are institutions that they pay their faculty, and
Why did you hate the other places quickly?
So part of it is because, like, okay, so there's some places they have a diversity problem. Like, there's basically a bunch of old white guys, and they know it's a problem, and it's like, okay, we're gonna make room for diverse faculty, but they don't make room for like the culture. Like, if you guys know me, the more you get to know me, the more loose I get. Like, I'm kind of like I'm not the kind of person that's always gonna give a lecture like, well, you see here, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't do that, right? Maybe I sound like that sometimes because, okay. You'll see.
I'm not saying it.
If we talk about Star Wars, I forgot the silence. If we talk about Star Wars, I will get like that. But
Yeah.
I'm also the kind of person, like, when I do my science, I'm also blasting a lot of music, and it can be anything. It could be Latin trap. Cade knows I've been listening to that. I forced him to listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, you know, some Christian worship music, and it could be, you know, hip hop. And so, like, I also want to be able to be the kind of person where I can be open about talking about Christianity. There are some institutions that are cool with that. A lot of them still aren't.
So
cool
you just
with
kind
that.
of went in and was like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to feel at home here.
Yeah, but I came here.
I'm saying to these other
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. And so I came here, and it was one of those things where, like, I was kind of depressed about, like, how uptight these other institutions were. I came here, it's like, I'm just going to be myself and see how it goes. And they liked it. So
Nice. Okay.
They ran you down to Tutors and got you.
Got you Mountain Dew.
Well,
at
actually-
Tutors
A
at
Dew.
6 in the morning.
well, actually, it was.
What year was this?
So
Did you get
this
here? I
was-
can't
so-
remember. You've been here a while.
So we got here January 2017.
Okay.
We probably came to Redemption like March or April for the first time.
But they didn't have a Sunday night service, so you didn't stay.
Well, see, okay, here's the real reason we didn't stay, because, like, this is where Laura, so my wife, she's super tight with the family. They live in Columbus, Ohio. And one of the benefits was Columbus, if you drive like Laura pre-kids, just, you know, if you want to see what Laura drives, like, or how she drives, watch Fast and Furious. That's how she used to drive and then we had kids, and now she's always like 5'10" under. But anyways, so like, we can get to Columbus in 2 hours, see her family. So for the first few months, like every weekend, we're visiting family until she got that out of her system. So I would say probably fall of 2017, we were like,
We need to find a church.
well, like, it wasn't just like we went to a bunch of churches, and the first time we came here, we really liked it. Like, we liked the teaching. Because it was like,
Was it Greg? Greg was teaching that one?
no, Josh was teaching.
All right.
Josh was teaching. And because we went to a lot of local churches. And one of the things, like, we just thought, like, the teaching wasn't very deep. They're very, like, seeker-friendly. Like, not a lot of, like, complex, like, not a lot of, like, hey, let's, like, make a change in your life. So I'm going to talk about something that's going to convict you. Like, we didn't get much of that. Also, a lot of the other churches are very old.
Well, let's not talk about the other churches
Yeah.
because they're all watching.
Yeah, all of them.
I don't want to get a bunch
Yeah.
of hate mail
Yeah.
on your first,
Well, no, I didn't-
your first podcast, Brandon.
Everyone was very nice.
They're
I
all
will say
clued in
that.
to see what we're
Yeah, we'll
doing.
Say
Yeah.
that.
When this goes out, just everyone's phone is boop, boop, boop. And, time to
But there were
listen.
people your age. There
Yeah.
was teaching was
Yeah.
or theology and Bible was value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which was like, okay, so I know that, like, okay, not to, like, beat a dead horse, but, like, you know, going back to the whole hospitality episode, I know that I feel like when we first came here, like, hospitality was like, there was a lot of people that were immediately like, let's go get lunch, let's get to know each other, blah, 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 blah.
That's great.
And then, like, that was actually, I remember, so I guess Jason Black,
Reached out.
well, I think his nerd sense
There's a
connected
nerd
with
in
my
the room.
nerd
Yeah.
sense. And so basically, for like you know, the first few months we were part of the church, it's like, hey, you know, the Avengers movies is coming out. You want to go see the Avengers movie? I'm like, Avengers? Yeah, duh, let's go.
Yeah, I think that is, like, you know, not to, I hate to pepper some compliments in here. I mean, I'm on my way out, but that is one thing that Redemption does really well is, like, they pull you in. It's not just like shaking a hand, nice to meet you. It's, hey, let's go get
They try to grab
lunch, and
That's
they try
encouraging.
to pull you in, which is great.
That is
Yeah.
encouraging. Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan,
Yeah,
for all of the
it
The
sounds like you
giggles.
guys are getting a real upgrade. And
Oh,
if you do the podcast, more
I'll
than
miss you.
once
It's
a
an
year,
upgrade.
I'll miss you.
already.
That's going to be great.
there's going to be a time where you're in town and we're going to get you back on. This isn't the end, right?
Yeah.
This is just till next time, Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, Chipper. The good news is with Brandon here, I might be able to just do like one or two podcasts a year, and then we'll just break it up in like 6 parts.
Yep.
Done.
Perfect.
Have somebody that
All right,
actually
anything
knows
that
what
we
they're
need to
talking
do
about
to
here.
wrap up before? I would like to maybe next podcast talk about what people can expect topic-wise or our formatting, where obviously this is a change, and hear a lot of the vision and plans that Brandon has for some of the ideas that we can make this better, more consistent, et cetera. And so that might be next. But all right, sign us out, Ryan, one more time.
Thank you for listening/watching, if anyone watches this, and thank you for taking over and being consistent. That's a future.
It's not Ryan's fault.
claiming
Trust me, it was never Ryan's fault.
And and you have at least one listener. I won't watch it though. Probably.
No apologies.
I don't think you can do that while you're
But
driving.
you'll keep listening.
Yeah.
Aw,
I'll keep listening.
great.
Unless it gets too good.
And
Then I'll stop listening because I'll be mad.
Yeah.
I don't think
Are you
there's
going to
any
provide
danger of
feedback?
being good.
Because I'll admit, like, you guys were always talking about, like, please provide feedback. I was one of those people that would
Would.
listen. It's like, I should provide feedback. And then it just
And
never
then I just
did.
never did. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll create a
Don't
bunch
forget
of
to like and
aliases.
subscribe. All right, we're done. I love you, Ryan.
No, we love you. We love this church, and we'll miss it. So, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of Image on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast at, or at redemptionwv.com/image, where you can also find any resources mentioned in our podcast and links to follow us on social media. And you can join the conversation by contacting us with any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions. Also, please rate our podcast and write a review at wherever you get your podcast, and that will help us ensure that this content gets to more people.